do you think of the coffee?
I like it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's good. You like it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite like fruity.
You might just closing the kitchen door too. Thanks.
I don't think I can do tasting notes on coffee yet.
Yeah.
I like tastes of caramel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although, Ethiopian stuff does taste citrusy.
Yeah. I find it's just like dark or...
Yeah.
This one tastes darker.
Yeah.
Or shitty.
Yeah, bitter.
I wonder what it's gonna do knowing that we're being recorded.
I know. Yeah, I'm already very aware of it.
I know, it's like you're listening to yourself
Yeah.
while you talk instead of... It's so fucking weird. Because our phones are always just on the table.
Well,
it seems like a different thing.
Here's the coffee. See if that calms us down. Not likely.
Yeah. Well, whatever.
Yeah.
Just to see, like, quality, too. And you can even hear us talk.
Mm-hmm. And are we heading for any particular time frame, or are we just going to finish our cups of coffee?
Yeah, that was what I was thinking, but if we get bored before then...
Yeah. If we are fascinating one another a bit longer.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's funny intending to have a conversation as well, I think.
Yeah.
Because normally it's like, go for a walk, or you just happen to sit down.
Yeah.
Have a cup of coffee.
And I think the way we normally talk would just be, one of us would just suddenly say, oh, can I tell you about this thing?
Yeah.
Or like, you got a minute to like hear this thing? And they often turn into interesting conversations, but I think probably because our intention is just to like say an interesting thing, and we don't know what's going to happen beyond that, and we don't actually feel like there's any goal to it.
Yeah.
Whereas this time round, or like just recording a thing, makes you feel like there needs to be a goal to it, or a theme. Like pick a theme.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems more like pick something and bring it.
Yeah.
Show and tell.
Yeah. And I even found myself this morning, because we've been aware that we were going to do this, even found myself this morning when I was reading something and thinking, oh, well, I could bring this up.
Yeah.
I could bring this to the table.
Yeah. And I guess that's what you do normally.
Yeah.
But you don't think of like, well, we just don't organize conversations.
No.
It's not how we have conversations.
No, it's not like, hey, want to meet at the weekend and have a conversation?
Yeah, but you
like
meet and have a coffee, and you know you're going to have a conversation.
Yeah, but you just call it something like a catch-up. Let's have a catch-up.
Yeah.
Or let's meet and have a chat.
Yeah.
But even that sounds more serious.
Yeah,
like,
it does.
can we have a chat
about something?
Yeah, and if I texted a friend and said, hey, can we meet and have a conversation?
Yeah.
I think they'd be like, whoa, is everything okay?
Yeah, super serious.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
like to parcel it in a kind of...
We're doing something else. We want to go for a walk?
Yeah. And I don't know if that's like the right way, maybe. That you need...
Yeah, maybe.
Because you need to relax, right?
Yeah.
Like the other night where I texted my friend and said, oh, do you have time over the next few days to speak with me?
Yeah.
That was like, oh shit, okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
And as soon as we sat down together, like neither of us were relaxed. She was like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah, I bet there wasn't much preamble.
No.
Just like,
no.
so,
Yeah.
what do you think of?
Yeah.
Like, get to the point. What's the point of the conversation? And so when you're okay, we're gonna start the timer now. It's like we need to get to the point.
Yeah.
But a natural conversation is just like they build naturally to a point, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I do think it's nice to. I almost do quite like the depth that you get to when you sort of are like, right, I need to talk about this, or I want to talk about this.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when I meet with a friend and we're just meeting to have a chat and a catch up, even if there's something playing on my mind that I quite want to talk about, I don't know, sometimes I feel like I won't quite get to the nub of it because it's been kind of parcelled in this conversation. So halfway through talking about that thing, I'll probably feel like I need to say, oh, but, you know, how about you?
Yeah.
You know, what about you? How's your stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes I think it's okay to just want to, like, almost have a one-sided, not a one-sided conversation, but one where it's like, right, okay, well, this conversation is for you to work this thing through.
You're figuring something out and the other person isn't really them. It doesn't matter who they are, they just need to be asking the right questions or...
Yeah, and you pick a good person
Yeah. So it does matter who they are, I guess, but it's not a catch-up.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't really care what you think about everything else. What you're thinking about, you need to think about this with me for a while.
Yeah.
Through having a conversation, you, like, think the same things.
Yeah.
But then one person will be like, oh, that makes me think of this.
Yeah, definitely. And, like, in that conversation I was just talking about with my friend, you know, once we'd sort of worked through some of my stuff, and she was offering helpful examples of, like, stuff she'd done. As we went at the end of it, when I felt like we'd sort of worked through stuff, I was like, so how's your family?
Yeah.
And it felt a bit unnatural, really, and I felt like both of us suddenly were out of that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, out of that.
Yeah, we were doing something because we thought we should do it.
Yeah. But that's natural.
Yeah.
You couldn't just, like, be like, okay, see ya.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely not. No.
You have to, I mean, it sounds brutal, but you have to almost, like, repay the person.
Yeah.
But with social credit or something.
And politeness is a good thing.
Yeah.
You know.
In order to get that person to listen to you again.
I don't really fucking care how your family is. I do.
Yeah. But then you can... Being polite is like you listening to them next time. Yeah.
It's like a longer term, you know, payback almost, or a longer term relationship, you know? It's like, right, the payback isn't going to be right now. Tell me all your woes as well.
Yeah.
It'll be, you know, I've got your back next time.
Yeah.
Or like whenever you need.
Yeah, when you need to figure something out.
Yeah. And I mean, the other thing is that I think you do get something being that other person as well.
Yeah.
You know, I think the conversation was mutually helpful.
Yeah.
For me and my friend.
Well, she probably figured out shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or could then go back to that conversation to figure out stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I remember telling Charlie did this. And... Yeah.
How do you find it being called upon for advice? Like...
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, well, yeah, very instantly conflicting emotions. Because it's like ego stroking.
Yeah.
But then immediately I'm like, but I'm fucking wrong.
Yeah. Like I'm not going to be able to...
Well, like, you shouldn't be listening to me.
Oh,
me these
right,
opinions,
okay.
'cause
Yeah.
they're bullshit, probably. So don't listen to me. But I don't know. Then the countered by, like, I think sometimes I do have something to say and advice to give, and hopefully I can help someone out with it. But normally it's not it's not me. Someone else told me that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this thing that really helped me out in a situation like yours seems to be now.
Yeah.
This really helped me out. It might really help you. Yeah. That feels really good, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
When something really nailed it for you and you can be like, here's a fucking home run.
Yeah.
Or like, here's an easy pass where when there could be hard shit for you. It's like, yeah, that's awesome, actually.
And like, that's a really important part of like the way the world and our lives work, right? That we're not all just gonna find things in the same way. That thing of passing things on and passing things down, that feels like a really, really natural, organic, like good way to disseminate advice and wisdom, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's the way that we disseminate wisdom.
Yeah.
Because even with a book, it's kind of a conversation with someone.
Yeah, and I love it when a book references another book or another person that I then go on to be like, whoa.
I would love to be able to see the reading tree.
The train. Yeah. Because some things just come in and they're a one-off and then they go.
Yeah.
Some, you know, that does happen.
But even there, like, the one-offs might be linked.
Yeah, true.
Because they're all within your own history of reading.
Like, I was thinking about you just picking up All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah.
But, like, obviously that isn't just coincidental and unrelated, because you've been listening to podcasts about World War One and been getting interested in war, so...
Yeah, and I feel like I can read the sequence back to Rape of Nanking, Ordinary Men. It's fiction, but it's like one... So I think of it as a tree in my mind. You said train?
Yeah.
Do you think of it as like a train journey?
Nah. I'm trying to think what's the actual... I think I was thinking about train, because it does feel like... almost like you're the train and you're moving through different books. And that's how I sort of saw that, because it feels like there needs to be a moving element. Yeah. But I like the tree as well, because I can see how that's like one thing grows out of...
It's a growing tree.
Yeah.
So like...
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
But I guess you moving through... But you're the tree moving through the world.
Yeah.
And space is literature, or...
Yeah.
Every goddamn book. And they grow from the past one.
Yeah.
Like new limbs and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see that comes from that branch of like investigating the darker side of humanity. And yeah, it's dark. It's not like Rape and Nanking and Ordinary Men were like documentary movies.
Yeah.
And just so intense. Whereas this one's so emotionally intense.
Oh, okay. Because
the other ones are like 20,000 people died on the first day and they buried 8,000 people alive, and you're just reading these stats and it's like, ugh. But then you get so desensitized so rapidly to that, and you just see 8,000 people as like, well, that's not as bad as the night before. But you don't think of them as 8,000 people like you.
No. And it becomes one of those things, and I know we've spoken about this before, it becomes one of those things in history and in science that, like, you hear and you can believe, but you can't, like, understand it.
Yeah.
Like how big a blue whale is.
Yeah.
You can hear someone tell you the measurements, and you can see a video of a blue whale.
Yeah.
But, for, you know, unless, I suppose, you was fucking right underneath one. How are you gonna... How could you ever know that?
Yeah, and I think one of the best ways we've done it is, like, fiction.
Yeah.
That's making me think of the bit in Douglas Adams, one of the books of Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yeah.
Where he describes what it's like inside the mind of a whale falling to Earth through space. It's like you fucking empathize with this whale, and it's like it doesn't know it's falling.
Yeah.
But it's ridiculous because it's using words, saying like, what should I name this rushing sound like? It sounds like a wind sound or something. So it's like coming up with names for things as it's falling, and then it sees the world and it's like, oh, there's this big thing coming up towards me. It has a round sound like wow, world or something. And then it fucking splats into the earth. And that gives me a sense of how big or what it's like to be a whale.
Yeah.
And in the same way, All Quiet on the Western Front, like, that has made, I don't know, it's a very different impression than facts and stats, because it's this one fictional character's story inside the mind of this guy going through the most horrendous shit, and like, but this is making me think of what I just learned about, I think we were talking about it with beauty, when you or like seeing shit, when you think of someone else, when you think of yourself, when you think of pricking your finger with a pin, or when you prick your finger with a pin, it lights up that part of your brain, which is like, ouch, pain, pin, finger, pull away. And then if you look at a picture of someone getting their finger pricked, same part of your brain lights up. Was I talking to you about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember you saying it. Or if you saw someone you know getting their finger pricked, it would do you'd have the same.
Or if you imagined someone you know, it has the same physiological effect. And I wonder if it's like reading stats and facts is like lighting up a different part of your brain, the analytical, like, I'm going to slot that in with other bad shit I know is true. Whereas when you read the narrative, it's like you're actually feeling what it's like to see death and kill people and shit like that. I mean, it must be to a lesser extent. I wonder what it is actually. Like, if you prick your finger with a pin, or if you imagine it, it must be like a 50% version or like a 0.5% version. Because you don't read a book and get PTSD.
No.
And you don't watch Hamlet and like kill yourself.
No. But isn't that to do with also the medium of language? And the way that the writer is using language to, you're not literally recreating the thing that is happening. You're using the medium of language to create kind of a sympathetic version of it, so that the reader can feel some of the elements, but almost from like a post-experience like place. I don't know, it's hard to describe, but I
like the word sympathetic.
Because I think that is what literature does, I mean, it does many things, but I think one of the things, I don't know, I was just thinking, so in yoga, a couple of the teachers that I practice with and have been reading about talk about the parasympathetic system.
Oh, right.
Parasympathetic nervous system even. Which is a bodily function. And I mean, I don't know how much I can talk about it because I need to like read about it more or research it more. But we have, so something called the parasympathetic system in us, which I don't know, I'm going to say almost like assesses and calibrates and summarizes how we're feeling and how different parts of us are feeling, and expresses that as a kind of whole, as a maybe like discomfort move kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, or pain,
Yeah,
change,
yeah.
or leave.
That makes sense, because para is like awe, isn't it?
Yeah,
Sympathetic is
and I'm
feeling.
sure there's a lot more to it, but that's sort of my basic understanding. So there's a bodily system there. And of course, when you read something that's emotionally charged, it's not just a process of having thoughts and creating images in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's physical as well.
Yeah.
It's physiological, maybe.
Yeah.
Like you get a lump in your throat, or you get tightness in your chest, or you really feel discomfort and you might have to move. You know, it'd be interesting to see when you're reading those
Yeah, I was just thinking.
books whether, you know, you move more often than if you were reading, I don't know, your Western.
Yeah,
Louis
or you're gripped by it.
Yeah, but your body might be, in that kind of protective, tense state.
Yeah.
Where you are almost like ready to defend yourself.
Yeah.
If you.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know, I would say it might be more than 0.5 of the experience that you're getting.
Yeah, and it doesn't give you PTSD, but it changes the way you look at it changes the way you look and act.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And see other people quite quickly. I feel like I was changed as I read. Well, I know that I've been changed as I've been reading some books, in the instant of reading.
But that's interesting as well because, and I know that we've both done personality tests recently, but you are super open to experiences, and that's like a personality trait kind of thing. I don't know exactly what openness means, but you sort of are willing to sort of accept and try out, and experiment. And I wonder if a less open person wouldn't be changed as quickly, or wouldn't immediately integrate into the way they saw the world. Yeah, because I mean, a lot of people don't read. Yeah. And I'm not saying that if they started reading they wouldn't find all of these things out, but a lot of people are people don't get affected in the same way as you and I do, I think, by literature and by...
Yeah, that's really interesting.
And I wonder if the more open you become, whether that's through reading or through other things that you do in your life, whether the more open you become, the more you would find you can integrate these things directly into your life.
Yeah, I wonder then what other people, what changes other people quickly, and I just I'm like a lump of wood.
Well, I love yoga. Yeah. And yoga, I think, is one of the ways for me in which I practice that openness, and I think it's developed my openness. I didn't take a personality test before and after, which would have been interesting, and it's not after, it's still during, but I think I've become more open in many aspects of my life since practicing it. And I know that you are kind of interested in yoga and think it's nice and enjoy doing it, but you're clearly not affected by it in the same way that I am. Yeah. And similarly for me, I feel that way probably about writing, that I really see the good in it and I use it and I find it useful, but it's not, for me, I guess it's it's not the primary means in which I experiment and discover parts of myself. It is one of the ways, but yeah. Yeah, and it's hard, I think. I find it hard to accept that people have other ways of doing it. Yeah. Because I just believe that reading and...
Just read a fucking book.
Yeah, and I believe that reading and practicing yoga are the ways. Yeah, and if you're doing something else, you just need to try these things.
But yeah, taking apart a motor is the same for someone as... because they'll figure out, see, it's so hard to imagine, but they'll understand the place of each part in the machine and the relationship it has, and oh, this works because of that, and
What do you think about the idea that they wouldn't have to do yoga, they wouldn't have to write, they wouldn't have to do, but that if they were to read, if reading, what do you think about the idea that reading would be the indispensable?
Yeah, it does seem to me as indispensable. And in the same way that, like, physical exercise, I think, is indispensable for leading a life of not a developed life, but a life in which you develop. And I don't think, well, I think you could probably say that is better than a life where you don't develop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. But I also just think that, I don't know, I don't think there's such thing as a life where you don't develop.
Yeah, but maybe it's like you want to develop the most.
Yeah, yeah.
And in the way that physical exercise, if you just need that in order to develop at all, I think, or past. I think reading is probably one of the...
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe it's just so much of a part of my life because we didn't read for so long, right? Nobody knew how to read apart from like monks for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And now we've picked it up and it seems so integral to the way we transmit information.
Yeah.
But now with the internet and like one of the biggest changes is we can, in the same way that books and the printing press allowed us to like capture language in written down words and transmit them across time and space. Now we can do the same with audio and visual.
Yeah.
So I wonder if, as much as it pains me to say, because I love books and I love what happens to my mind when I read words on a page, I wonder if actually communication is more streamlined and actually more fruitful if we're doing it through speech. Because like we told stories around a fire with our mouths a hell of a lot longer than we did sitting under a lamp with a book. And I love that. And it goes against my better nature to say maybe one day we'll be back around the fire, but the person won't be beside us. They'll be like beside us in virtual reality and just talking to us, telling a story with their mouths, or like through thought transference, or what do you think?
Yeah, I'm thinking a few things. I don't believe, or I don't see a future where it would be one or the other. Because I still think that so much of the interesting conversations that are happening on the internet, through podcasts and through lectures, so much of those still have to do with things that people have read in books.
Yeah, that's true, right?
So many of the ideas that they're talking about still come from that source. And we're not just living on the ideas of the present moment. We're living on ideas that have been around for centuries.
Yeah.
And that we have fed on through books because we had to, because that was the only way of them passing, really. And that there's something that the time and space a person allows themselves when they sit down to write a thought.
That's it.
Yeah. There's something that happens that's different there from when they are in the moment of communicating it to another person. So because of that, we as a reader benefit from that richness.
And added into that, I think, is the editing.
Yeah.
Because you can't edit a
Yeah.
conversation. You can go, well, I don't really mean that, but like, I kind of mean that. But with a book, you can hone it before you give it to the other person. So it's like, this is exactly what I think. Or this is exactly what I want you to think. Or
in the book that I'm reading at the moment, Intelligent Yoga, and I know this isn't a literary work, but it's very well written. The guy Peter Blackaby, he says that, you know, it's very hard to describe the feeling of what happens when you practice yoga and when you practice a movement, and it's hard to describe the feeling of what an integrated movement would be like. You know, if someone's not using a part of their body they need to use, it's very hard to describe like how to do that, as it is a teacher as well. And he says, you know, it's very hard to describe, but it is specific. And then he goes into do a very good approximation of the way it would feel if you asked somebody on all fours, so on their knees and on their hands, to look up at the ceiling and they just move their neck. And you know that a more compliant, useful movement for their body would be to use their pelvis as well to help them look up. So that one muscle isn't being, you know, one area of their body isn't being strained and tense to do that. And he says, you know, we could ask them to imagine they had a tail and they wanted to wag their tail up and down. And then they find their pelvis through imagining that they had this tail. Or imagine you've got a horse's neck, which begins between your shoulder blades when someone isn't using their whole back to look up. And so this has a point. That because it's hard to describe something, an idea, a feeling of what happens, but it is important to be specific, to try and be specific. And that's something that when you're live in the moment of discussing, there isn't an awful lot amount of space and time to do that. So you might say something, then you go away and you think about it and you think, oh, this would have been a good way to describe that. And then you write it down, you know? And that's useful for you, but also for the person that you want to communicate that to. And, you know, I think that's a lot of what Wordsworth talks about as well in his poetry, of like the difficulty of using that, like, language to approximate feelings and make meaningful communication. But you have to try and be as specific as possible and be as as approximate as you can. And I think we still need writing. We still need books to be able to do that. And if we're just using the medium of speech and video, I think we're doing ourselves a disservice.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I wonder if you'd lose something. It's making me think of, like, the arts. Like, stage, poetry, literature, music, dance, singing, music. And I wonder if it's, instead of replacing literature with podcasts or even audiobooks, it's like now added to that group of the archetypal arts or whatever will now be podcast. And there's like the greats, because one thing that you said where it was like we still talk about books and podcasts. I wonder if that's because this is the first wave, second, like first decade, when we've had 20 decades of podcasting.
We'll be referencing podcasts.
We'll be referencing podcasts in podcasts in podcasts, and there'll be this like noble tradition, a canon.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's a great way of passing on ideas and generating ideas and, you know, planting the seeds of ideas. And I don't know. I'm sticking by my guns of like, we're not going to get rid of books.
Yeah.
And
until we're robots.
yeah. I think what I feel podcasts have given us a great, and what the internet gives us as a great tool, is that, and I'm sure you feel this way as well, that if you read something in a book and it's just hitting the mark, or it's like troubling you, and you know it's troubling you for a good reason, it's much more useful, or I find that it only becomes useful to me if I can then talk about it with somebody, or I can write about it. You know, I'm sure for teachers, if they teach a class on something, it becomes useful to them. It's almost like you have to do a bit of work with the thing that you read, because otherwise I find that it just sort of sits in my dashboard, if you like, you know, my internal dashboard. It just sort of sits there as one of those open loops that is just sort of troubling me, and I don't really know what to do with it. And you know, very often I'll talk to you about something like that, and that will really help, and we'll use it in a kind of conversation, or I'll talk to a friend about it, or write it down as a sort of just reflective thing. And I think it's great that we've got the internet and podcasts as a way that people are doing that already. They're like talking together about these ideas to figure out what they think about them, and therefore make them useful. Yeah. I would like to see the internet being used more for that.
Yeah.
And podcasts being used more for that.
Yeah.
But they are good at just disseminating information as well, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
I think they're different enough to warrant their own place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But not replace anything that's come before. Like, people were shitting their pants when novels were big.
Yeah.
Like,
do you think that the rise of podcasts will instill or create or make people want to actually have like discussion groups again?
I'm not sure. Yeah, because I feel like the comment section is like our hope that it will generate conversation, but it's not really conversation. The comment, you just say your own shit and then fucking downvote everybody else.
Yeah.
But I know for me, I use it all the time as like, oh, I was listening to this podcast and like in a conversation with you or Tom or something. It's like, oh, it's just listening to this thing, and it's such a boon to my conversations.
Yeah.
But I don't like go to a Joe Rogan conversation group where it's like, so this week Joe Rogan, like a Bible study group. Or
would you want to?
I don't know. I just like using it as like to make me sound smarter. It's like, oh, I heard this thing, and you can add like a level of like fact almost.
Yeah.
I heard scientists saying this shit.
You don't use it just to make yourself sound smarter, though.
No.
You don't. You're using it to help you understand your life.
Yeah, and have a better conversation.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but then if you're not having those conversations, it's like, I'm listening to this to enrich my conversations. Gotta make space to have the conversations.
Yeah. Should we leave it there?
Sure. Yeah.
I like that as an end. Gotta make space to have the
The
conversation.
conversations, yeah. Yeah.
Cool.